Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Hey guys, so in this video, Alvin and I will be discussing the paths to 270 for both major party candidates in the upcoming presidential election, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
Yeah, so there are basically seven states that could vote for either side. Every other state seems to be locked down for one side or another, barring a very, big event for either side, maybe a really good debate performance or a really bad one for someone in the next few weeks. But for now, seven states that look like they might swing one way or another that will determine the course of who gets a 270, the magic number to the White House. For Donald Trump, the Republicans, it might be 269 as they retain the edge in the House delegations at 26, although technically could change, very unlikely though. Anyways, looking at this map, we are going to now mark two states, North Carolina and Michigan. And the reason I'm going to be marking these off the bat is that it is almost impossible for either side to win the White House without winning those respective states. Trump basically needs to win North Carolina. If he doesn't win
Yeah.
North Carolina, he has a horrible night. I mean, even in 2020 when he lost pretty badly to Biden in terms of the Electoral College count, he still held on to North Carolina, albeit by a small margin. Now, Harris really needs to win Michigan. Biden won it by a really healthy margin compared to the other states, flipped it from Trump in 2016, and she really has to win that state. So either for either side, these are really necessary.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also, these are the states that I would say they're doing the best in as of right of these seven states. Michigan is probably the state I think most likely of those seven to go to Harris, and North Carolina is the state that I think is most likely of those seven to go to Trump. And they also, when you look at the 2020 election, Michigan had the healthiest margin of these states for Biden, and North Carolina had the healthiest margin for Trump. So, in that respect, I think this makes complete sense. I think both campaigns should be heavily targeting these states, like Harris' campaign in Michigan and Trump's in North Carolina. Because if those candidates lose these states that should be theirs, the election kind of is already falling out of reach for them, I would say.
Exactly. All right. Now, I'm going to start with the paths for Trump. I think the most easy route for Trump that's been highlighted by many people is the Pennsylvania plus Georgia route, which would immediately get Trump to 270, does not even consider any of the other states. This path seems somewhat plausible because Trump historically has been doing well in Georgia in the polling for a very long time against Biden. He has been slipping though against Harris with her enthusiasm among black voters, but he could definitely still win the state of Georgia. And in terms of Pennsylvania, I think he definitely has a shot there as well. He has a near 50-50 coin flip. A lot of polls right now have it tied. A lot of, some polls have like Harris plus one, Trump plus one, but it could be very close to that state as well.
Hmm.
This would probably be his easiest route to victory, only needing two states.
Yeah, I would say I would say that that definitely makes sense. The only thing is like I mean, of course, there's no doubt these states are definitely going to be close. And I would say looking at like the polling and the indicators we have so far, it is kind of interesting to see. Like when you look at Georgia, for example, this is a state that Biden won barely, and it's a state that's generally be trending more blue and it has rejected Trumpism on some levels, especially in 2022, like when they reelected Brian Kemp and these Republicans who are kind of anti-Trump. So I think, yeah, like you see the shifts there in the Atlanta area. It's a state that's been shifting blue, but it's oddly Trump's been polling, pretty decently in that state. I would say it's still I would say both states are about tied in the polling right now. But yeah, it's interesting. And then same thing with PA. I think Harris is doing slightly better in PA in terms of the polling we have right now. But yeah, it's just another state that was incredibly close. I think almost any Dem victory is going to require PA falling in line for the Democrats. But we'll have to see how that turns out. This is a state that I'd say its trends are more stagnant. Um, it's not really moving in any direction. The suburbs are moving left, the rural areas are moving right, so it kind of evens out. So yeah, I think no doubt like this state is definitely going to be close.
Yeah, and talk just speaking of Pennsylvania, I want to just talk about the rest of the paths for Trump. And if Trump wins Pennsylvania, let's say we lock that down for Trump, and he does not win Georgia, he needs to win two of three of the remaining states. So that's any combination of Arizona, Nevada, and Wisconsin. Any two of three would get him over the hump, even the smallest two, as you can see, Nevada and Wisconsin would get him to 270 exactly. So with
Hmm.
Pennsylvania locked down, you need either Georgia or two of the three. And if you don't win Pennsylvania, that really makes your path very narrow. You obviously have to pick up Georgia. So really, you have to win Pennsylvania or Georgia at the bare minimum. And if you win Georgia, the only really other route here is Arizona and Wisconsin, with Nevada not mattering and Pennsylvania, obviously not mattering either in this scenario. Neither state would matter. So
Hmm.
you'd have to win these two bigger states. So that's really the only path for Trump, either Pennsylvania and Georgia, or one of Pennsylvania and Georgia and two of the three remaining states. With Georgia, you have to win the biggest two, which might be a tough ask.
Yeah, and also I noticed with that particular strategy also, like it involves a lot of resource splitting between the Sun Belt and Rust Belt, respectively. So yeah, you'd have to have a very, like, I mean, broad appeal with that. Those I will say though, those three like that you highlighted for Trump, for that specific path for Trump, like Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia, those were the three closest states, I believe, back in 2020. So I mean, if assuming all stays the same and the national environment just gets slightly redder and those states flip, then that path could make sense. But although I will also note though that Arizona and Georgia are both states that have been trending bluer recently. So I don't know the feasibility of that path. I don't know. It could happen, of course. But like I think just the trends kind of imply it might not be as likely as it could be. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think now maybe we should talk about the paths for Harris.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just touch on one more
Oh, okay.
path, the Sun Belt path. Both candidates have a full Sun Belt path where Nebraska second would have to switch to Trump, which technically is possible. It's a small district, so bigger shifts could happen within it. It seems unlikely right now, with the Omaha area just generally being bluer and the suburbs not shifting enough for Trump. But technically, I just want to talk about this in case it happens. We did mention it where he would win in the House of Representatives at 269. But we can talk about the paths for Harris if you want to lead that at
Oh
all.
yeah, you should flip Nebraska second back. I will say
Yeah.
though, yeah, I mean that last one's probably the least likely of Trump's paths because the suburbs are the is
Yeah,
the
for
one
sure.
area that I think Democrats are going to be gaining. It's really a question of which way the rurals, which way the cities move, I would say. But I think suburbs as a whole, as we saw in 2022, are going to continue to move left. Um,
Correct.
Okay, so the main path I think that's being discussed for Harris that I've been hearing like talked about a lot is the Rust Belt path, just kind of
Correct.
rebuilding this blue wall that Democrats have been talking about forever. Um, I mean, Biden successfully did it in 2020, and Harris might try is been campaigning heavily in these states to do it again. So yeah, it's basically just obviously keeping Michigan and like keeping your good margins in Michigan and winning Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. These all like these states with like very large suburbs, all traditionally white, working class. Yeah, just like keeping these people that part of the electorate in her column. That's a clear path to victory right there if she could keep that coalition together.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the three states that were looking the best, I think. Even when Biden was in the race, when the Sun Belt slipped away, there was still a glimmer of hope for Biden that he could hold together this blue wall and keep the election together. Now that Harris is in, she was really seen as weaker than Biden in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Obviously, Pennsylvania is one of Biden's home states, along with Delaware. And Biden was seen as better appealing to these people, but Harris has been doing better in the polls in these two states. He obviously picked Tim Walz as someone that could try to lock down Wisconsin and then help in Pennsylvania as well with the Midwestern appeal. And there's a lot of fights over unions in this place, auto workers, excuse me. And recently we've seen a lot of concentration of effort by the Democrats to try to get Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. I think this is definitely the clearest route. If you take away Wisconsin, though, I just want to note that you would have to replace that with either Arizona or Georgia. Nothing else would work. Nevada
Hmm.
doesn't work. So you'd have to either get Arizona putting you at 271 or Georgia putting you pretty comfortably over at 276. That's sort of like the Pennsylvania route. Of course, just like Trump, though, you have a Georgia route, right? So really, both candidates have a Pennsylvania route and a Georgia route. When it comes to the Georgia route, you'd have to either sweep the Sun Belt, which is another possibility. Both candidates have a Sun Belt route where they just completely sweep the Sun Belt. Or you'd have to win two of the remaining states that are not Pennsylvania, just like Trump, right? So this might remind you of what I just talked about with Trump, but you'd have to win two of the three. The smallest two, Wisconsin and Nevada, would get you over. And of course, if I replace that with Arizona in either sense, you would get over the hump. So
Yeah.
yes, Harris has a lot of paths here.
Yeah, and I would also note, yeah, there's like one more extremely like notable path that I would bring up here that I think could happen is the full Sun Belt route is just Georgia, Arizona,
Yeah.
Nevada. That I believe is also a way to get her to 270 here. Assuming like yeah, like assuming she does lose among the white working class. Like some people predicted she would. I mean, the polls don't really suggest it as of right now, but if that were to happen and she were to lose Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, these states along the Sun Belt could, I mean, could potentially go toward Harris. I mean, you have a lot of black voters in Georgia who could be excited and energized to vote for Harris. And also, I would note that I mentioned before, both Georgia and Arizona are moving leftward, so it's not impossible that they just these two particular states move left enough for her to win them. And the case for Nevada, I'd say here is outside Michigan it was the second bluest of the seven states back in 2020. So if she holds that in her column, I mean that's a path right there along the south right there. Um, but yeah, like I think those two are the most clear. I mean, again, obviously with Trump, like she could throw some blend of that together, maybe win a PA, Georgia, with Michigan. But yeah, I think if you're just going for like a specific like one-way strategy of like Rust Belt or Sun Belt, those are like two clear routes I see for her there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Of course, there's a blend too, but this is a little bit of a weird path. I think, although possible, I think it's weird that Trump would do so well in the Rust Belt, but then lose the Sun Belt, including Nevada. I think I could see this maybe happen just because, you have definitely strong shifts in Arizona and Georgia. In 2016, you had strong enough shifts in Maricopa County and the Atlanta suburbs that these two states shifted. But if you look over at Nevada, this was one of the notable metros in Clark County in Las Vegas that shifted to the right along with New York City. And these were really notable, and of course Florida. But yeah, it's really tough to say. So you now obviously have this Trump path that we'll be looking at. You have this Harris path. You have a lot of paths, and of course, these very narrow paths are a little sketchy because if you win exactly 270 electoral votes, that is not a great mandate. You might also lose in the actual Electoral College, leading to a absolutely massive constitutional crisis, where we are seeing a disaster of epic proportions. Especially, it looks more and more likely that Harris is going to be winning the popular vote. So if Trump somehow clutches up at 270 or 269, that would be absolutely disastrous for the health of the country if wins the House or something. That'd be crazy. Or even crazier, Democrats flip one or two delegations out of Republicans' hands, and then we have to decide it in the Senate,
I really
where
don't think a
it's
tie would
probably going to
happen,
be
but
50. If it's 50-50 in the Senate, Kamala Harris breaks the tie for herself to become the president. We might experience country, but Anyways, we'll be talking about them another time, not today.
Hmm.
So, anyways, thanks for watching, guys. We are looking at a race that is basically around the corner. With Harris doing a lot better than Biden, of course. We know that early voting is starting very soon. Do you know when? A week or something?
Oh yeah, I think
Actually,
the first ballots, like the first early ballots for North Carolina are like next week, which is pretty
yeah, they
crazy.
might be next week, which definitely should not be a thing. We definitely just shortened the election calendar because some primaries aren't even done yet, and
That's
we're
true.
sending out early ballots. That's ridiculous. But anyways, it is what it is. Can't really. I'm not in power, so can't do anything. Yeah, that's the path to victory. So really, we're looking at a very, very tight election. We'll keep you guys updated, and our next prediction for the 2024 presidential election will be coming out probably in 2 or 3 days back in college, so might be a little longer before your next upload. But thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like on this video. Comment down below which path you think is going to happen for both candidates. And subscribe for the prediction, ring the bell, and share this video with your friends and family. Thanks for watching.
See you guys.